What's up, guys? We are back with another SH Figuarts review, and we're taking a look at a new line that I'm getting it later than most, I'm sure, but we're taking a look because I can't not talk about this. We're taking a look at the Berserk Guts figure. This is the Berserker armor version of Guts. I have really wanted this figure for a very, very long time. I'm excited that Bandai has Berserk. I never did any of the Figma stuff, so this is new territory for me when it comes to a Guts figure, despite the fact that this is like one of my favorite manga and anime series of all time. I recently just watched the show, the original show, and I'm currently rereading the manga to get current as well. So this thing is very much top of mind for me. Now, he comes in, fairly normal Figuart style packaging, but this is a new line, so it's got its own thing. So you've got this sort of dark box. It's kind of a bloody motif. You've got guts in the window. You've got that familiar cutout style shot on the front, but it's artwork this time. And then you've got product shots on both spines. And then, of course, in typical Figuarts fashion, there's a lot of product shots on the back showcasing how this guy moves, and then a bunch of the stuff he comes with. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package, our SH Figuarts Guts, a line really that I have wanted from Bandai specifically for a very long time. Kind of feels like I'm personally getting a lot of stuff from Bandai these days that I want. They're really hitting hard on Dragon Ball stuff that I'm interested in. This line in particular, they just revealed Yu Yu Hakusho. There's so much stuff right now that caters to my anime and manga interests. And this guy is definitely up there. I know he has gotten kind of a mixed reception from folks because there are some issues with this figure. But generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with this guy. There are definitely some oddities about him though, and that's maybe the one thing to sort of hone in on, is that there is some just weirdness in terms of what they decided to do when it comes to putting him together construction-wise with his articulation scheme. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. He can certainly move pretty well, but it's weird. Like, there's some definite odd choices when it comes to how he's put together. So you've got a head that can look up a little bit. He can look down a good bit. You've got your tilt side to side. You've got rotation now. He does have this sort of collar guard here that keeps the cape on him. So it does get in the way, but it's not too bad. Where, of course, things are weird on this guy are the arms and, well, specifically everything about the arms. So arms go out good. They go out far, but the construction on this is just so crazy. So it's a double ball peg, but one side is a true ball. The other side is a ball hinge, which makes for some really weird sculpt when it comes to the inside of the arm. Range is really good, and it allows him to reach across his chest pretty nicely. So that's okay, but it's weird. Everything about how this is put together is certainly different from the norm. Certainly it's got to do with him being able to hold that giant sword, but it's weird, and there's no real other way to describe it. Like, this is not standard by any means whatsoever. So he can swivel, he can go up and down, side to side, but it's funny looking, and I'm not a big fan of the visual aspect of that decision. You've got a bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows. They go about that far. And then you've got ball hinges at the wrist, so they go up and down. This is not the best wrist to use because it's got the sort of guard on it. So on the right hand, there's more range. So in and out, of course, rotation. But this is another weird area because these pegs are really different. They're just straight pegs. Like, there's nothing that really holds the hand on. And this is another point of contention for a lot of folks, is the hands are easy to come off, which means him holding that 500-pound sword is also not the easiest, and it is a balancing game for sure. So that's kind of odd, and there's definitely some folks out there, they've already gone the extra mile to try and figure out ways around it and to, beef up that joint or that peg a little bit, but it's weird, and that's the word I can only use here. There's a lot of weirdness when it comes to how he's been put together and some of the joint construction considerations. He does have the range, but it's odd. The torso, that's the other thing. I knew that was going to happen. So he's got this knife that pegs onto his belt. And this might be the most frustrating thing for me because I don't really like this knife here. Because one, the knife doesn't do anything. And two, it gets in the way. If it's not there, there's a peg. But you've got some range forward and backward. Really nice tilt side to side. And then you've got full rotation. So it's pretty decent. But you're going to knock this damn knife off for sure. So I'm going to leave it off for right now. Legs are going to go out forward about that far. They kick out to the side. just a little bit though. Like they don't really go that far because of how he's put together and how all of this stuff cinches. You've got to sort of twist and tuck and turn everything to get these legs to move because his armor goes up above the actual thigh. It goes up towards the hip area. You've got a twist there. Double jointed knees. Knees are loose on this guy. Like they're okay, but they're definitely loose. And then you've got really, really nice hinges and rocker, like super good down here at those ankles. There's also rotation at the top of the ankle. And then of course you've got your toe articulation, but he's weird. Like he moves really well in terms of range in most areas, but it's at the expense of having some odd joint structure. And as you can see, I mean, those knees, they're wonky. They do not like to stand up without you sort of being finicky with them and messing with them. The arms and the wrists are odd choices for joints. The wrists and everything move fine. It's holding that sword that's difficult. And the shoulders just sort of look weird because of how they cut everything in to get all of that stuff sort of crammed in there. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, this is a very different story for me because articulation-wise, he's good. He could be a lot better, but he's good. Visually, I think they absolutely nailed him. He is an absolutely stunning looking figure. This isn't even my favorite look for Guts. I prefer the earlier look, without the Berserker armor on him. But I really like this, and this is, very much a solid looking figure. I can get around articulation hangups and quirks. You can sort of work around that sometimes, not every time. You can't work around a figure that looks bad. This is definitely not that. I think the armor here is tremendously well done. It's got that very plate look and feel. It's all covered in a gunky kind of wash, so it's not clean by any means. Nothing on this figure is clean. The skin tone is really clean and consistent across the board, so this arm to the face, it's all very consistent. He does have a whole bunch of stuff on him, so he's kind of a busy figure. You've got this aforementioned annoying knife. You've got pouches. He's got the cannon, or not the cannon, the crossbow storage pouch back here, which we'll talk about again. He's got the strap coming down with more knives. So he's got a bunch of stuff on him. He's got more knives on his leg here. None of this stuff actually does anything. It's just there for, look and feel. But he looks tremendous. I'm really happy with him. He's not super huge, but he's not scrawny either. He's obviously Figuarts size and scale, so he's not going to fit with everything, and we'll do size comparisons, but I'm really happy with the way he turned out. Again, there are a few things that I don't like, specifically when it comes to the inside of these arms. That's one of the most unsightly cuts I've seen on a figure in a really long time. Can I get over it? Sure, but it's weird nonetheless. It's a very odd look. It just sort of takes a big chunk out of his arm to have that joint structure in place. But overall, this is Guts. This absolutely looks like him. It very much looks like he jumped right off the page to me. I'm very happy with what paint is on this figure and the finishes and the textures, because he does have a lot of different textures, from the sort of leather, the shininess of the leather, the grittiness of the armor. His Meccano arm even has a little bit of a patina on it as well. And of course that does help with his asymmetry. So you've got the bandages, you've got the mechanic arm over here, and this does look pretty good. It does have limited articulation because of the sort of guard right here, so he can only go up and down a little bit, but it looks good. It looks correct. He does have, I mentioned this as well, it kind of gets in the way of the head articulation, but this sort of face guard, there's that knife again, does look really nice popping across, and it does keep the cape in place, and it keeps it in place really, really well. And I will say, I like and kind of dislike this cape at the same time. It has a weird feel to it. When you actually get it in hand, it's a very stiff fabric, but it's a great, great cape otherwise, and super, super posable. We don't get tons of soft goods with Figuarts. It's happening more and more, but we haven't historically gotten a lot. And this feels really good. You can see the wire outline. It goes all around this thing. So you've got plenty of posability here. It's very dynamic. It's very easy to pose, and it gets up and out of its own way very, very well. So I do like that. It just has sort of a, it's a very tight and almost cheap feeling texture to it, but I'll be damned if it doesn't work really well. It does have a little bit of paint on it to make it look distressed, and of course it's absolutely tattered and beaten. And then you've got your head sculpt up here, which, again, this is another thing that aids in making it look like he jumped right off the page. This looks terrific. You've got the one eye, you've got his little red pupil, you've got some scarring up there. Again, the paint on the face, very consistent across the figure, so flesh across this figure is really clean and consistent. And then you've got that little swipe of white hair up there also. He does have the brand on his neck, but it's actually pretty hard to get back there and see it. It is there though if you wanted to double check, but I'm very happy with the way the head looks. I'm happy with the hair. All that sculpt, the paint, again, looks just like Guts. Jumped right out of the manga. Very, very happy with the way this guy looks overall. Even some of the weird quirks relating to those arms and the shoulders, once you kind of get him in hand and kind of take it all in, he's a really solid looking figure. Now, as far as size comparisons go, we've got our Guts in the middle. We've got SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Super Hero Piccolo here on the left, and then we've got a Mythic Legions skeleton on the right. This is Mythic Waltor, because skeletons work thematically with Guts, but you can see that these are obviously very different scales. He doesn't fit too bad with Piccolo. Piccolo should be a little bit taller. Let's pull Walter aside, and here's a Marvel Legends. Here's Blue Marvel. So he's pretty comparable there. Let's move Piccolo aside, and let's do a Super 7 Ultimates. Here is Groon from Thundercats. Let's do a different kind of skeleton, because these are fresh in mind. Here is a boss fight Epic Hack skeleton. That might work a little better, actually. And then let's do something a little bit bigger, because this obviously works as far as something you could put him up against. Here he is with one of the Zesray Studios Minotaurs, which is obviously so big that it's out of frame, but that's going to work pretty well. So he does fit pretty nicely with, pretty much any other Figuarts kind of stuff, and then your normal actual 1/12 scale stuff, he's going to fit decently enough with, but being a Figuarts, he is going to be a little bit on the small side. Now, as far as accessories goes, Guts has a pretty solid spread here. There's obviously one major accessory to talk about, and then we've got a few other things as well. So to start with, we do get some extra faces. He's got his stoic expression on him in the box. You get a gritting of the teeth face. These are faces, not heads. And then you get a screaming, yelling expression, which is my favorite. All the paint and sculpt on these look terrific. Very happy with the faces across the board. We get some extra hands as well. So he's got relaxed hands on him in the box for each arm type. You get a right gripping hand, and you get a right fist. And again, these have weird pegs, so they work, but they don't hold the sword very well. There is a balancing act that's going to have to occur to make this work, or you're going to have to beef up that peg somehow, because it's just odd. I can't begin to understand why the pegs are situated and formed this way. We get some extra hands for this side as well, so you get a wide gripping hand. There's also a smaller gripping hand here as well, which is meant more so for some of the attachments. So he does have the arm, and the arm does different things, right? So it is the cannon. So you get the actual arm cannon here, and this has a hand that's attached to it with a movable hinge right there. So you pop the forearm off, and you pop that sucker on there, and you've got his arm cannon. And then you also get the crossbow hand, and this is the other hand that comes with it. So this is the full shebang with the accordion style thing on there, the crossbow, the whole 9 yards. There's no arrows or anything that come with it, but this looks really good. And this, of course, is one of his very unique type of pieces when it comes to his character. You get the crossbow gun, like the stowed version. So this is the handle, and it goes back here on his back in this piece right here. So if you want to have that stowed, you can, to make him look, complete, because that should be there. If it's not on his arm, it should be on his back, right? So you've got that. You also have that aforementioned very annoying knife. We get if I can get it, we get a green bayonet, which is very hard to hold. So you've got a couple mouths and noses on this thing, because of course we need one of those. And then the most important accessory, we get his sword. And this thing is enormous. It is taller than the figure is. It's really well sculpted. The end will come off to allow you to slide it easily into that gripping hand, so you don't have to pry the hand apart or anything like that. It's got the wraps on the handle. This whole thing is textured, so it does have some extra paint on it for that metallic. It is on the heavy side, obviously, so you are, again, for the 10th time, you're going to have to balance this out. You can make it work. It's not the end of the world, but it is an annoyance. There's no way around it. This sword, for as cool as it is, how big it is an annoyance when you're actually trying to pose him with it. But it is an undoubtedly very cool accessory and the most signature thing for Guts in particular. So I'm really happy with it. It looks great. The big issue is more so the peg on the hand than the sword itself. If you can build that peg up, and I've seen people do it plenty of times at this point already, you can make it work just fine. It's one of those things that ideally we shouldn't have had to do that. So he does come with a lot of cool stuff here. You've got pretty much all the signature Guts things here, some really great faces, and then again, I can't get over that sword. It is fantastic. It's just unfortunate that the wrist pegs are, well, for lack of a better word, weak. So overall, I'm really happy with Guts, but gotta have the caveats here, right? Because he isn't perfect by any means. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the stuff on his belt that gets in the way of things. Not a big fan of the design for those shoulders. They're unsightly, to say the least. I have heard people have issues with their arms entirely popping off. I don't seem to have that issue yet, so your mileage may vary. The big thing is the hand, specifically his right hand, and not wanting to hold that sword very well. I can work around it, but it's an annoyance. He does look fantastic, however. From top to bottom, I'm really happy with the way this figure looks outside of those wonky shoulders. And then he does have some really solid accessories. I love the sword. I love the arm attachments. I like the fact that we get a bayonet out of it, the whole deal. There's a lot of cool stuff with this figure. I'm really excited for where this line could go. He's not perfect, but if you're a Berserk fan, this is definitely not one to skip on. So that's going to do it for this look at the SH Figuarts Guts. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.